to Bad Larry.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Bad Larry Kingdom. I'm your host, Bad Larry. I hope everyone is safe out there with the storms and fires. It's like the age of apocalypse out there. Today we are exploring part 3 and part 4 of Raid on Graymalkin. But first, we gotta rate those covers. First off, I will acknowledge I do enjoy Ryan Stegman's art and style. It's fun. He has developed a good balance between the realistic human form and the comic-y, fantastical forms we see him produce. However, he cuts a lot of corners when it comes to some of his covers. This one in particular for X-Men number 9. I don't know if he's just under the gun or what, but this cover seems quite phoned in. One solo X-Man, Psylocke, on the cover? When there are 16 X-Men currently involved in the storyline, and this lazy addition of Wolverine's claws in the foreground obscuring Psylocke, the background is also sloppy. I don't like the layout, especially the positioning of the Marvel logo. It just seems very rushed and unconsidered. For that, I give it a fail. The colors are nice though. Conversely, David Marquez and Matthew Wilson produce an A effort for their cover, Uncanny X-Men number 8. They included in a clear manner nearly all the mutants involved in the story, even Magneto, who isn't there. There is a clear center focus, the mysterious mutant, heavily shadowed, the focus point for the reader and all our heroes. The background creates emotion. Overall, it's quite well done. And this central figure is a clue. We will circle back to it at the end of the issue. Unlike in last episode, we're going to explore each book independently in this episode. The first 9 pages are drawn by Federico Vicentini, and the last 9 are drawn by Ryan Stegman here for X-Men. It is somewhat off-putting having multiple artists in one issue. I feel it hurts the immersion, but it is what it is. X-Men number 9 starts out with Psylocke holding Nightcrawler at knife point with what looks like to be his own saber. Nightcrawler eases the tension by acknowledging the anger that has subsided now that they're away from the initial battle. Inside the control center, Warden Karina Ellis is either overconfident in her protocols or has underestimated the X-Men as she complains as to why these heroes haven't been neutralized yet. The captain reminds her that these heroes are not just plain old mutants, they are the X-Men. What a visually stunning piece. Lots of action and movement. I really do not enjoy pointing out mistakes, but there is one glaring mistake here. Pause the video and see if you can find it. Notice Jubilee. She is wearing her trademark yellow trench coat and pink sunglasses on her head. She should be wearing the red Graymalkin prison inmate jumpsuit as she just broke out of her cell. I know Rogue didn't bring Jubilee her little outfit to change into, and later in this issue, she's drawn correctly for the timeline in that red jumpsuit. But still, despite the mistake, it's still a 6 splash page. I must correct an error from last episode. I mentioned the Graymalkin trustees were comprised of Blob, Siren, and Toad. Well, I mistook Toad for Wildchild, or vice versa. In my defense, they can look similar. Gail Simone's Death Dream, does he even do anything? He just stands around being emo. I do enjoy seeing Magic using spells to offset Siren's scream, pushing her back. The art is exciting and moving. Well, except Death Dream. I keep having to look up his stupid name. Anyway, Jubilee, who should be in the red jumpsuit, tries her little small talk shtick with Temper and is put in her place. Jitter is a real liability. I mean, the 4 new mutants on Rogue's team are all liabilities. Temper may seem like a newbie who's on Cyclops' team, but in actuality, she first appeared back in 2010. So she's been around for more than a decade. So to me, she is past newbie status, just like Jubilee isn't a newbie. She's just lower on the totem pole. I love seeing just a little gore with Wolverine absolutely gutting Wildchild. They can get away with it here as Wolverine isn't technically killing Wildchild because of the healing factor. Is similar to Wolverine's. And finally, we have an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Who wins? I will always put my money on Jugsy Boy here, but Kane is still struggling a bit with the obese obstacle. These Sentinel Wolves seem more squishy than scary. I don't know if that's their purpose, but the X-Men are running through them faster than the star quarterback through the cheerleading squad. Death Dream still hasn't done squat yet. Who likes this guy? As Temper struggles somewhat with the speed of the Sentinel Wolves, Ransom swoops in, creating the inevitable romantic tension every X-Men series has or needs. Love-struck lovers, stuck on opposite teams, almost worlds apart. How will they make it work? Here are two interesting pages. They seem quite innocuous, but there is a layering here that may or not have been done intentionally by Jed MacKay. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's intentional. After the trustees and Sentinel Wolves have been neutralized, Rogue asks Cyclops, quote, "What now, Slim?" The question seems basic enough, but Rogue calling Cyclops Slim as a nickname shows she's being friendly. This is a nickname he's had a long time ago, showing their connection is deep. Also, Rogue asking, quote, "What now?" is respecting Cyclops' superiority as a field tactician, even though Rogue leads her own team now. You would think the manufactured schism between Cyclops and Rogue is over, but you'd be mistaken. Back in Graymalkin Control Center, Warden Ellis is getting annoyed. She snatches her defense captain up and then smacks the shit out of Scurvy for daring to even think of questioning her decisions. Warden Ellis orders Scurvy to enact the White Light Protocol, challenging Scurvy's claim to be Professor X's equal in telepathy to prove it to her. We will address this slap later on, but for now, damn! These next 9 pages are drawn by Ryan Stegman. The X-Men are sometimes just lucky, or their actions could be seen as providence, executing a predisposed plan in which they are simply pawns. Nightcrawler and Psylocke, I believe, are being drawn to this cell underground, secured with an enormous hatch. The clue here is Psylocke. She calls Nightcrawler, quote, old friend. She's clearly being possessed by someone. Y'all probably know who it already is. Back to the main team, in front of another security door, the friendly vibes and nostalgia of fighting alongside each other fades as Rogue and Cyclops are about to draw lines in the sand. Everyone believes Professor X is being held behind the security door they just found, labeled Inmate X. Do you believe it's Professor X? Rogue tells Cyclops, "Well, job's pretty much done. Let's just let Professor X loose and get the heck out of here." And Cyclops says, "Well, how about no, Rogue?" Rogue is totally caught off guard. And so was I when I read this initially. I was like, WTF, isn't Cyclops all about mutants being free, mutant liberation? Why would he not want to free his mentor and father figure in Professor X? Rogue's like, "You must be joking." Cyclops is like, "Do I look like I'm joking? In no way in hell am I going to free Professor X or let you free him either." Rogue gets all up in Cyclops' face, finger in the chest. "How dare you!" I love how Jed MacKay writes without writing, you know? The direction to have Stegman draw Cyclops gently removing Rogue's power finger from his chest is a G move. "Don't touch me like that, lady," and proceeds to present his case. Cyclops is all about mutant freedom, but he knows the only way that is possible is if Professor X is locked up, because if not, all mutants will just go back to being puppets under the control of Professor X, like we saw with Psylocke a few panels ago. Cyclops wants mutants to do as they choose, not play pawns to the one dream of Charles Xavier. This idea of being a slave to a dream is featured later, tying the story together. Rogue says allowing Professor X to stay locked up is wrong. Cyclops says that Professor X made him forced to watch, as Professor X slaughtered the crew of a ship called the Agnew, and throws the question back to Rogue and saying, was that right? If anyone knows the game Professor X plays and the danger of losing their free will and their freedom to that of the dream of Professor X, well, that person is Cyclops. And Cyclops says it is best for all mutant kind right now to keep them locked up. Line in the sand is drawn. Rogue is a bit like a 17-year-old girl whose mom just took away her cell phone. Rogue feels entitled in that her opinion is the only valid opinion and is overly emotional about it as well. She tells Cyclops to move or be moved. Cyclops says, over his dead body. Before they come to actual blows, Scurvy hobbles in on some crutches and says, ain't no one leaving Graymalkin. He starts floating, says he's the big bad brain telepath who's keeping Professor X locked up. Isn't it interesting that Scurvy, even though he's all skinny and wrinkly, has so many physical features comparable to that of Professor X? The bald head, the eyebrows. We'll explore that a bit later. So this is the white light protocol. Scurvy has entranced everyone, placing them in stasis, unable to move or basically even to think. I thought Juggernaut's helmet was designed to block telepathic attacks, and if this one is as well, Scurvy's white light protocol is overpowering the helmet. Juggernaut is impulsive. His brain is being fried. He makes an unauthorized move, about to break the hatch holding Inmate X, who everyone believes is Professor X. As you can see, Professor X is clearly not Inmate X. He is pulling up tough, though, as he clearly used Nightcrawler and Psylocke to free him, with both seemingly still under his control as they are drawn with their heads down, eyes covered. It's an unnatural way of being or walking. So if Professor X is not Inmate X, then who is? If you go to Uncanny X-Men number 8 cover, the clue is the center character. Doesn't it look like Apocalypse? Could it be him? Is it supposed to be the most dangerous mutant which can't ever be released? Who do y'all think it is? Now we move on to Uncanny X-Men number 8, drawn by Javier Garron. So that is now the third artist drawing all these same characters in one episode. We're having fun, people! And back to the slap. Backstories are fun to see the motivation of characters, their evil villain arc, but man, you're telling me the big baddie 2 X-Men teams are fighting is a freaking podcaster? A podcaster? This is embarrassing. The handsome young fellow in the green sweater and luscious hair is in fact Scurvy. Say what? Dr. Karina Ellis sexed him up to learn about his telepathy powers, and we all learn the more Scurvy uses his powers, the more it eats him up inside, making him old, weak, bald, and ugly. Karina Ellis hates mutants. She doesn't care one bit about Scurvy, but has turned him into her own cuck, a dog on a leash, a betrayer of his own kind, willing to literally kill himself for her dream. So the X-Men are battling an overzealous, racist podcaster with a powerful cuck on her leash. Weird. Dying for someone else's dream, this is what Cyclops wanted to avoid for all mutantdom. He doesn't want all the world's mutants as playthings for Professor X, cucking out like we see Scurvy doing for Karina Ellis. It's a powerful message. Follow your own dreams, your own path. Your mom and dad or your coach or your teacher, they typically authentically want the best for you, but in their own imagination. You must choose to sometimes disregard them, which might isolate you or cause these people pain or anger, for you to be free to follow your own dreams and your own path. Cyclops understands this. Rogue has yet to. Interestingly, Professor X was drawn with an orange jumpsuit that was in the X-Men issue, and now he's drawn in blue. Another slight art or color mistake, but let's allow it. It's not that big of a deal. What is a big deal is how they keep messing up Temper's color scheme. Once again, the blue and orange are incorrect. It is almost disrespectful at this point to keep messing this up for her. Rogue is a flyer, and she can take more damage than most, but every inch she moves closer to Scurvy, she feels her head more and more ablaze. But in true hero form, she's overcoming and is making her way closer and closer until Scurvy drops Juggernaut on her. Nice move. Scurvy and Professor X, face to face, because they're somewhat a reflection of each other. What Xavier seemingly doesn't know is that he and Scurvy are part of a special group, a group of 5 bald telepaths called avians. The bald boy Rogue is speaking to over on the right, he was called Harvey X, an avian who died of a brain tumor, which it seems like all 5 avians have. Xavier is stunned, hardly believing it. During this telepathic tete-a-tete, Rogue was knocked out of Scurvy's little mind loop. Who is the first one she then frees? Gambit, her love? Nah, she hates to admit it, but it's gotta be him. So she slaps the crap out of Cyclops, freeing him from Scurvy's loop as well. Gail Simone loves to have her X-Men people slap Cyclops. I mean, she must have a fetish for it. These 2 pages further the fact that Rogue and Cyclops have very different connections to the mutant kind, their ethos, and their connection to Professor X and Professor X's dream. And while they respect each other, they are very far apart with the direction they want things to go. Cyclops really warns Rogue that Professor X isn't who everyone thinks he is or who they thought he was. Professor X makes some big headway knocking Scurvy back, while the X-Men one by one free each other from Scurvy's white light protocol. Here we see Wolverine all stumpy, it's hilarious, grabbing down Jubilee, which is now drawn correctly in the red Graymalkin prison jumpsuit. Interestingly, Gambit was the last to be set free. Even though the teams have stopped physically fighting each other, they are broken, which to me is okay. Like a family member who may have strong political opinions per se that differ from you. It's okay to distance yourself from that family member and just love them from afar. You may never change them or their opinions, and that's life. Sending them love is free, though, and sometimes that's all you can do. Professor X wants to know who is Inmate X. I find it odd that he doesn't know or can't scan through the barrier to find out. We obviously never find out in this issue who it is. Dr. Ellis pops up with a rifle and some lackeys, and both Rogue and Cyclops are like, you gotta be kidding me, right? You know you're way underpowered over there. You best get to stepping. The X-Men really know how to flex their muscles, don't they? They put on quite a show. Dr. Ellis seems underimpressed and calls them muties right to their faces. Rude. Notice that Juggernaut is carrying a clearly unconscious beast like a little blue loaf of bread. And shame on Gail Simone for making Calico a horse girl, making the poor artist always having to draw a darn horse when she's around. Horses are hard to draw. This evil witch Dr. Karina Ellis brings out her trustees and makes poor Blob recite this self-deprecating mantra about being unworthy, unsavable, mutant trash, la la la. It is unnerving. Dr. Ellis tells Rogue she has Sarah Gaunt, aka Hag, locked up, which apparently Hag nearly killed Wolverine, and asks Rogue if Hag should be set free. Karina Ellis is using a straw man argument here. Just because she has a few super dangerous evil mutants locked up doesn't mean that all mutants are dangerous and need to be locked up. It's a false logic. It's a non sequitur. Professor X finally defeats Scurvy, and we think that means Karina Ellis is also defeated, right? Wrong. You can't be a true evil supervillain if you don't use space lasers as a super gun, right? I don't know why Karina Ellis ever was carrying that rifle around. She never used it. She tells Rogue and Cyclops to piss off, or she will destroy both their homes in Alaska and Louisiana, letting us know and them know that Ellis knows where these X-Men are living. Poor Siren cries, saying that Ellis isn't bluffing. Well, Rogue ain't leaving without Professor X. Xavier tells Rogue it's okay, that he belongs there in the prison, confirming again that Cyclops was right all along. You know, they made a t-shirt about that, which causes Rogue to break some rocks because she has a little tantrum. One last look here, Juggernaut carrying poor unconscious Beast like a little blue baby doll. Gail Simone, she just can't help herself, can she? There's one final page and one more chance to have Rogue punch my boy Cyclops. Simone is sick. Someone get her some help. Well, Cyclops has had enough. Punch me, I'm gonna punch you back now. Well. Beast is apparently awake and okay now, able to hold Cyclops back. I thought he was unconscious, being carried around by Juggernaut like a little baby. And again, temper and her colors, the the right and the left, the blue and the orange. These people don't know which is which. Um, Sloppy work here on this last final page. We never learn who Inmate X is in this series, but Karina Ellis says it's the last Avian. So it's got to be a bald telepath and a male because Ellis uses the him pronoun as a clue. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this little 4-part miniseries and who you think Inmate X is. Subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you real soon. Peace.